that. Let me just some you have to open, Nigeria must work. Okay. Inas Ebota, Christopher MKJ, Ray Calabar, Lanray 7, Son of God, I am Samuel, Igwe Phil, Moses, Igwe Phil, Moses, Truth Listener, and so on and so forth. So we just right. So if I haven't called you attention for whatever reason, I can't see the comment sections not appear not.
Much Cruise Pace. Today we're on PPT Live. Feels like a long time ago. I think today I don't know. So I know sometimes this happens on Twitter where the space doesn't have a comment section. But I'm trying to figure out why, but it doesn't really happen. But I can see we don't have a comment section in this particular space. So um, just okay. I think so this is what we used to have back then on Twitter, anyways. But so if you click the plus button, like if you want to make a comment, and you click the plus button, you can type your comment. So maybe, I mean, if we need to check for comments, we'll just go to the hashtag. When you click the plus, you discover that you see all eyes hashtag all eyes on the judiciary hashtag 1MMC. So it means whatever tweet you are going to be making is going to be under those two hashtags. But for the sake of this space, we'll be looking at both to see. Would also use the hashtag all eyes on the judiciary. But please, I think today is a good day for us to trend all eyes on the judiciary. It trends every time, but I think today is one very good day to trend that. So don't hold back in making your comment. Like the normal, you go to the comment section and just click retweet. Um, you just click that plus button and click tweet. So you just only tweet the hashtag and the space. You are not adding, you don't, I mean, if you want to write anything and add to it, it's cool. I mean, I would like that. But if you don't really have anything to write, just tweet and share the space. Let the timeline be flooded with the space so that we can get a lot of people in here, and have some. And I'm just laughing, and and usually it's kind of very after we've um things. Um, someone now, some people start maybe speaking. Let people start coming to the space. After which would come into the space. After which would go through the PDP. I mean, you can easily draw the parallel. Ukraine and Russia are neighbors. So Nigeria and Niger are neighbors. A couple of the Western worlds, the US mostly, empowered Ukraine against Russia. Like, if you want to put it in a layman terms in Nigeria, they push our mental wahala. Like, I mean, not in any. Even in Nigeria now, you see some Western. I am just thinking, if the US really wants to stop the the fight in Niger, like they want to stop the coup, send your soldiers to Niger and do what you want to do. Being vulnerable and all those kind of things, and so it's for me, I'm just looking out. It's just that it's not something I'm particularly. It's something of great concern, and if you're in Nigeria, you have you should have concern, but we should we need. It's one of the reasons why we need to get this country in the right hands ASAP, as soon as possible. If the US really wants to, if the US, the French, anybody that really wants to upturn the coup in Niger, I mean, you have military, right? So don't come and be calling Nigerians every day and say, oh, go and solve it, go and do that, go and do this. Feels the need. So some people understand this would have been the difference. If Peter Obi was sworn in May 29th, of course the US wouldn't have anything against him to hold him or whatever. So they won't. So the US knows that they have Tinubu's dossier, they have his criminal case, his investigation, and everything. So they will probably just put a call to him and say, "Young man, if you don't want us to do this thing," and I mean, I'm just putting it in a lighter way. It might not be directly like that, but I'm just trying to create a picture in your mind. So and to know why that is a very dangerous place to be in. And these are some of the things I remember. I said this sometime July last year in a couple of spaces that I mean back then we just say it out of emotion, not really out of emotion, but out of sentiment, and say, do you know that Tinubu is a drug dealer? The US has decided they can use it to blackmail him at some point. And people never understood that, but now it is happening, and it's quite unfortunate. But anyway, notwithstanding, we'll take a couple of speakers, then hopefully by then we have a couple of points space. We'll take a couple of updates regarding the PDP. Some interesting things are there. After which, yeah, okay. So earlier today, I also talked about to end yesterday. We looked at So today we'll just go through the reply, not read, we'll not read it, we'll not look at it. Anek just backed out. The truth be told, I think Anek just at some point they did not even really. What's going on? So I think Anek too don't see say, man, we don't mess up. So let's just see how that goes. But we'll look at it. I'll probably just give a couple of highlights. I tweeted something today that Wole Olanipekun has to be the most unintelligent lawyer I've ever come across. And I mean, I said I need to apologize to first. I thought Festus Keyamo was a very unintelligent lawyer until I met Wole Olanipekun. And that's one of the points I'll buttress later on this space. One of the points on his reply that was damn near. In fact, I was just about making a tweet about it before Uncle Akaji called me up. So I'll make that tweet and we'll talk about it as well. So there's a lot to talk about. Today promises to be interesting. Retweet the space. Get a lot of people right in here.
And again, welcome to today, and everybody else and those who have just joined. This is the 1 Million Man March crew, and we've been keeping tabs on what's going on in the courts. A, because they didn't want us to, and B, because if we allow ignorance to fester, then people will be in darkness. And if people are in darkness, then these guys will just carry on. It will be business as usual. You could see the effort they've put in to make sure that this wasn't streamed, it wasn't televised, that, they just huddled up in a dark room and then come out and tell us whatever they want, and then the newspapers will highlight aspects they want. But we figured out that they had a sinister motive, and that the only way to counter it was to shine the light and make sure that every Nigerian, every well-meaning Nigerian, know what's going on. Because this is the crucial part of the electoral process. If you don't believe me, just go to Imo State and ask. When he got to this phase, one guy who was number 4 suddenly became the governor of the state, and he's still there now. So it's very much a part of the process. We can never really stress that enough. Our principal is also somebody who has gone through it, where he won an election very, very clearly, and they declared someone else. Of course, in those days, there was no statutory timing with this constitution that was cobbled together by some soldiers. The whole aim was to get the soldiers out, and they didn't look at anything. So whatever happened, you get sworn in, and then the other guy can carry on going to court, and between the registrar and they try whatever they call themselves, and they can carry on pushing it forward for as long as they want. So in that case, he was there for 3 years, before the judgment was eventually made and he became the governor of the state. So what I'm just trying to say is that the court procedures, the tribunal, the Supreme Court, is very much a part of our electoral process. We're all just hoping and praying that when we get PO in, we'll look at this electoral law, dismantle it, and look at the areas that don't make sense at the moment, and review and tighten them up. You can push the election down to February and inaugurate someone in May. That gives you enough room to review, the process. So instead of, instead of making someone who may not have won the election the president and give him all the powers to and access to the resources of the country, why not exhaust that judicial process and know that the election has come to a conclusion before you do that? It's only in Nigeria that people don't do what is reasonable and logical. So, and that is why we are where we are, where you are having a neutral umpire, like just an examining body, having to be joined in a suit. If things worked very well, just the way you see WAEC or NYSC come to court to give the original document, that's how INEC should have been, not INEC coming to be a party to the whole thing. It would have just been a case of, hang on, INEC, this guy made a pronouncement, what's the real result? And INEC will just send it with timestamp and everything, and everyone will go home happy or sad, as the case may be, and prepare for another day. But at the moment, it's all just messed up, and people's loyalties are in the wrong places. You have independent in your name, and you're not independent. You just literally do every black and white. You don't need to be a lawyer to know that if you presented forged documents to INEC, that we already have judicial precedent, that disqualifies you. Not only did Tinubu do that, there are other, points of law where he has failed. And the point people also made on this is that you don't really need 3 months to interpret that someone that sent in a forged document shouldn't be president. That, the situation wouldn't have arisen where someone is addressing Tinubu as President Tinubu, because these things could have been decided within 24 hours, especially the ones on the point of law. And the problems as well that the uploading at the polling unit was seeking to remedy, these guys want to reverse it. And so it's a fight really to say, look, we prefer progress to backwardness. We don't want to have retrogression. The all the issues after at the collation is where all the issues happen. And he gave his point why he wanted it to be photos, and then it made a little bit of sense until we thought about it a bit more. That he just wants these photos that have been signed and seen and counted by everybody, snapped with the same beavers and uploaded. And then when they get to the collation, if someone decides to fiddle the number with the numbers, then they will just go back to what was snapped at the polling unit, and that will prevail. But of course, what they are trying to do now is to say, oh, by the way, while the process is going on, we can decide because we are in a point of Labour's cases and Peter B's to say, no, you can't. You are responsible for this election and you've led us down this path. It's there in black and white in your guideline, and your guideline is also a source of law in this regard. And you severally, even before a day before the election, you told everyone how it was going to go. So you can't just wake up and say, oh, by the way, this is how I now want to do it. So it's not just what's convenient for someone, but it's just what it means, what it portends for us as a country going forward. If we allow this sort of madness to hold, it just means that whatever progress we thought had been made money to to be recognized by their local people as the candidates they prefer, the incumbent, or in my own state, where the governor's son, who had made himself Speaker of the House of Assembly and then now decided he wanted to move to Abuja, to the Federal House, where he was, defeated. You know, governors, some of them defeated. And most reluctantly putting it in place. And the doing and beaming the searchlight on this very easily push this country over the edge.